Our meeting tonight is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy.
I am very grateful to be a member of this church and for all the wonderful work that I have been given to do here. In the beginning of 2019, we had new language translations being sent in. Because of this, I needed to learn how to make web pages and videos with languages that are read from right to left, and also to figure out how to combine each citation of the translated lessons with the corresponding citation in English. I know that it is only because of God and practitioner support that I was able to get that done, and then keep up with it all through the year. All of that has now become part of a build system comprised of over 200 little programs that help me and Linda make videos and update all the websites each week. I only mention this because if you had told me even 3 years ago that I would have been led to do all this, I would have been very skeptical, to say the least. I'm constantly amazed at how Christian Science is showing me that my self-imposed limitations mean nothing to God. It gives me such joy to know that God has so much in store for all of us, and if we stop resisting Him, then we will see what we are truly capable because of Him. And now, despite having no specific idea what 2020 will bring, I do know that this year will be filled with good and bring nothing but blessings to all. What a joy it is to be a part of this mission. I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you.
Karen from California.
Karen from California.
Thank you for the wonderful readings tonight. I am so grateful to testify tonight to God's all-presence and protection. My husband and daughter and I were driving to the airport Friday on our way home from being with the family for Christmas. As my husband was passing an 18-wheeler, the truck started drifting into our lane. It did not take long before we realized that he was not stopping. In an effort to get out of the truck's way and not get hit, my husband started moving over to a grassy area that separated the 4-lane highway. However, the truck was moving too fast and eventually hit us. After we were able to stop, my husband and my daughter got out of the car to assess the damage. I knew that my first job was to be grateful that no one was hurt, and that as our textbook states, accidents are unknown to God. Since this was not an accident, it was a golden opportunity, says Kratzer in his article, Working in Truth, to trust in God and know that He is always ever present and governing all. Just before leaving where my husband and I had been staying, I read God with Us by Edward Kimball. As I was calling 911 and the rental car company, I was able to bring that article up on my phone. He says, quote, "Try to be conscious that God is with you every moment. And in the seemingly dark hours when error screams to be heard and would tempt you to your destruction, faint not, and know that man is governed alone by God, and truth is the only voice to be heard." Unquote. And also, he says, there is no truth in anything that is claiming to have happened. Unquote. Despite such thoughts expressed, I hope we don't miss our plane. This is a busy time of year, and we may be sitting around the airport waiting to get on another plane. I was grateful that the three of us were very calm. I also let go of any concern on my part of missing or not missing our plane. I knew if God wanted us on that plane, we would be on it, and not even this incident could interfere with God's plan. After the patrol officer finished all the paperwork he needed to do, it was determined that all that was needed for us to be on our way again was to have the front right fender removed. So he called someone with the proper tools who came very quickly, and we were back on the road to the airport. Even though there was additional time needed at the rental car desk, we arrived at our gate just as everyone was boarding. After we were in our seats, I once again thanked God for our safety and knew that nothing can touch God's child except that which blesses. I am so grateful to have found Plainfield Church, where I am learning more and more how to live this truth every moment of every day. Someone asked at a recent roundtable discussion, "How do you feel the presence of God?" The answer was to live it every moment, not wait until something happens that requires one's prayerful attention, and then try to feel his presence. With support from my practitioner, the Bible studies, roundtables, and so much more that this church provides for one's growth in the study and practice of this science of the Christ, I am so deeply grateful. Thank you. I'm grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Day, Georgia.
Day from Georgia.
Thank you. I'm thankful for the article, The New Year, by Mrs. Singletary, featured on our website, which simply and significantly explains what the new year is. She mentions in part, it is gratefully counting our blessings and trusting God with our future. Thanks to what I'm learning in Christian Science, I'm working to count my blessings more and more, and even more, and to sincerely trust God with my future, doing away with the idea of any control I think I have or that I think I need. If He who knows best is taking care of my future, then He is doing the same for everyone else's. And understanding this leaves nothing to worry about. I'm most grateful for the opportunity to continue to progress in science and to see the resulting improvements in my daily life as I press on. Thank you so much for tonight's encouraging readings, Amanda. I'm very grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Sherry, California.
Sherry from California.
Thank you. On January 1st of each year, I am always reminded of something Mary Baker Eddy wrote in Science and Health, page 253. She writes, "If you believe in and practice wrong knowingly, you can at once change your course and do right." I think of it because of all the New Year's resolutions I hear being made and then waiting for January 1st to carry them out, when, as Mrs. Eddy says, we can at once change our course and with no waiting. In my home, it is usually quiet over holidays, as it was this Christmas. In our hymnal, hymn 146 says, "In God I find a precious gift, the gift of gratitude." I claimed that as my gift on Christmas Day, and it became for me a gift that kept on giving. It opened with me being grateful for all the good I witnessed this past year, more spiritual growth than I have ever experienced, which led me to be grateful for this church and all its provisions, from which opened my thought wide for such growth. And this gift then led me to be grateful for Mrs. Eddy's provision for Wednesday evening testimony meetings, and for my ability to share at them. This was not always easy for me. In fact, that is an understatement. I just couldn't. But in our manual, under testimonials, it states that testimonies scale the pinnacle of praise, and I wanted to know that. So I began praying to be led to share what God wanted me to share, and for the courage and humility to let Him use me for this purpose. And what I learned is that whatever God has led me to share is now continuing to lift my thought higher in the understanding of whatever I had expressed my gratitude for, continuing to bless me. I am so very grateful for this gift of gratitude I received, and for all the gifts of gratitude that have been shared by all in this church. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, New Jersey.
Nancy from New Jersey.
Thank you for the beautiful readings tonight, the testimonies, and the uplifting music. I wish to express my gratitude for a recent healing that I had. A few weeks ago, when I took off my shoes, I found that I could not put any pressure on my right foot. It felt like something had shifted in my arch, and it was very painful, and I was not able to walk very well. Throughout the day, I kept holding on to the thought that I walked with God. The next morning, when I woke up, I was still in a lot of pain when I tried to stand, and I knew that I needed to call my practitioner for help. I am so very grateful to my practitioner, who was always available, and for her loving, prayerful support. I was given 2 hymns to work with that were extremely helpful. Hymn number 139, I Walk with Love Along the Way, and also hymn number 324, where one verse states, Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for thee. I worked with these hymns throughout the day, and I could feel the pain leaving. By the next morning, when I woke up, except for a little tenderness, the pain was gone, and I was able to stand and put my full weight on my foot. I called my practitioner to tell her of the great progress being made, and we talked about standing up for what is true and seeing the nothingness of error. That simple statement, the nothingness of error, became so clear to me. Absolutely nothing was ever wrong. God's perfection is now, was then, and forever will be all the truth there is about me or any of God's ideas. I was completely free and able to go about swiftly and with ease to accomplish everything that I needed to do. I am so very grateful for this healing, grateful to God, grateful for the teachings we receive in this church, and I am so grateful for the loving and steadfast support of my practitioner for showing me the nothingness of error, and I am so happy to be here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joann, Florida.
Joann from Florida.
Thank you. Last week, a poor phone connection broke up my testimony. So I'm giving it again because it's the most wonderful thing that happened to me this year. I came back to Plainfield Church. I especially want to thank those faithful, loyal church members who stayed with God all these years and made this church possible. Your stand provided an open door and arms of divine love to come back to. I left this church 16 years ago because I wasn't ready to acknowledge that strict adherence to divine principle and not a belief in oneself brings the only success, the only health, and the only safety in life. It took me years to finally realize that without the spiritual discipline of wholehearted reliance on God, life is empty, purposeless, and ultimately joyless. So I am grateful for this past year because it brought me back to Plainfield Church and to all that is real and worthwhile in life. Returning to Plainfield Church has given my life purpose and a stronger sense of God's ever-present love. And this return was made possible because of the Christian Science lived by those faithful members who stood all those years. This is what drew me back to this church. Thank you, God. Thank you, members. And thank you, practitioner, for loving enough to help me see my way back. And Amanda, thank you. Those readings were beautiful.
Thank you. Gary.
Well, I should start by saying Happy New Year and congratulations to those of you who are here and with us, who have your priorities right. I'm grateful for many lessons that I've learned in Christian Science, and one of which is to learn how to listen for God. When I first came to Plainfield, I thought I was a pretty good listener. I was good at listening to my teachers and my co-workers and my family members. But I wasn't that good at listening to God. And I found that unless I am listening carefully for God, I can't really count on doing anything right. And as I grew in science, that became a very insecure feeling. And I found that when I wasn't listening for God, I was making mistakes. I was doing things incorrectly, doing the wrong things. And it became more and more painful. And I'm grateful that a Christian Science practitioner in this church was willing to help me learn to listen for God and to train me to listen to God. There is a statement in the Bible that has meant quite a bit to me in this regard. In Zechariah, it says, "Be silent, O all flesh, before the Lord." Well, that statement has meant a great deal to me, and one of the things it means to me is don't entertain the senses. And, for example, don't sit around listening to music. Don't spend a lot of time watching television. Don't talk too much. I had to learn to stop being enamored by the sound of my own voice. But stay quiet and peaceful and open my heart, because that is how we hear God. Mrs. Eddy writes in our textbook that Spirit God is heard when the senses are silent. And I had to learn to silence the senses. And as I have done this, I have found that I do things better. I have a better idea what needs to be done, a better idea as to how to do things. I have better and quicker healings. And with all that, I have a better, stronger sense of God's presence. And that is the greatest sense of peace and security that I could ever have. So I'm so grateful for the help of this practitioner, for helping me to learn to listen to God better. And I'm so grateful for Mary Baker Eddy for giving us the science of Christianity, which makes sense out of everything. And I'm so grateful to be here with you all tonight.
Thank you.
Dave, Florida.
Dave from Florida.
Yeah, hi. A few weeks ago, I had to have my blood pressure taken. I was told that it was very high and that I should see a doctor. Needless to say, I asked a practitioner here for help. She said that the only time Mrs. Eddy mentions pressure in Science and Health is on page 451, line 3, which says, Christian scientists must live under the constant pressure of the apostolic command to come out from the material world and be separate. Then she said, how could you do that better? So I thought about it, and one way I came up with was to make sure I am seeing a certain person in our community right. She's a constant source of aggravation to everyone here, and while this had not been easy, I am constantly working on it, as well as other things. Anyway, 2 days ago, I had to have my blood pressure taken again, and I was told it looked good. Needless to say, I'm very grateful for this quick healing. I'm grateful to be a member of this church, for the work of the practitioner, for Christian Science, and thank you, Amanda, for those readings. Thank you.
Elizabeth from Georgia.
I'm very grateful for the Plainfield website and all who work daily to keep it fresh and new. This morning I was feeling a little overwhelmed and a little bit melancholy, and I logged on to the website on my phone and I found several articles that address the new year, including one titled The New Year, Time, Working in Truth, and Expanding Your Horizon. And each article had just the right idea, with the focus to address the good here now, which is available for everyone. And it lifted me out of this melancholy feeling, and I'm just so grateful and how blessed we are to have this website. And thank you so much, Amanda, for the readings on spiritual progress, which is such a perfect theme for tonight.
Thank you. Linda.
I express my gratitude for the readings tonight and the music before the service. A couple of weeks ago, a letter was read, and in it, the person wrote about doing everything for the glory of God, even smiling. I'm very grateful to be learning here how to give all to God and for His glory, and that my motive is more important than any action, as we've been taught by Christ Jesus. This has been very life-changing for me, since it has required self-awareness, honesty, and discipline. Her comment on smiling for the glory of God brought to thought the many years that my smile did not correspond to my inner feelings and thoughts. My gratitude tonight is for the many lessons and for Plainfield practitioner support that's now making my inner and outer life match and more godlike. Thank you.
Thank you. Shardy.
Thank you for this evening and the music and the lovely readings. I would like to talk about God's gifts that came during this season. They're very healing. The first one is about church. What a gift to be here for the services last week, and a gift for all going out. My second one is about a little boy who came to our house for dinner the other evening. He's 3 years old, and he'll be 4 in February. And I have a little creche on my little table on my side of the house. And I thought, I wonder how he's going to react to this, because I wanted to talk to him about it. In he came, his name is Mason, and when he saw it, I said, do you know what this is? And he said, yes, that's baby Jesus. And then he started to make his arms into a cradle and sing a little song that he learned. I asked him, where did you learn that? And he said he learned it at his school, which is a preschool. I was delighted. Now, I have other little plastic figures in the children's creche that he was not quite familiar with. So we talked about all of them, and he played with them. One is a little mouse, and he put that right near everything, all the others, the sheep And he didn't know much about the wise men, so we talked about that. Then my third gift is from God is a grandchild, and he's 8 years old. It was a watch night, and I prepare everybody, as I have done in the past, that I was going to do a watch, and then I would close my door and be peaceful and quiet in there and do the prayers with everybody else. Well, about 9:20, I saw the door handle turning, and in he came, and I motioned, come on over. I said, would you like to see some of the prayers I do? And he nodded, and then I said, well, this is one I pray with the children, for the children. Thou art truth's honest child, of pure and sinless heart. He said, well, but that sounds like me. And out he went, and he closed the door very quietly. And that's from hymn 382. These were very healing gifts, and I'm so grateful to be here and learning to be part of these gifts from God. Thank you.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amanda, for the beautiful readings. I am so grateful that the thought of New Year resolutions no longer hound me. And I say hound because I used to think truly that every year, the beginning of every year is when I had to make all these decisions of how much I'm going to change. Just as previous testifiers have said, I have learned that it's every day, every moment, in fact, that we have the opportunity to renew, for renewal, since we live in the eternal now. That burden of always making resolutions and failing them, because I used to make them with human will, instead of living in gratitude for the grace of God, that burden is gone so long ago. And I'm so grateful for the teaching here, the simple teaching here, that it is humble, consistent practice of the truth we know about God and man. That should be my only resolution. I'm so grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
I have an email tonight from Canada. The candlelight service was a wonderful, uplifting event my wife and I enjoyed very much. Also, the testimony about the song that was sung during the Christmas Eve service, Make Room in Your Heart, which led me to some thoughts about the birth of Jesus. In Luke 2, the inn symbolizes my heart. The manger symbolizes the unwilling heart, not making room for Christ and Christian Science. The babe symbolizes the growing understanding of Christian Science, and this growth is natural and divine, as is symbolized in the sourdough, Luke 13. It can't be hindered or reversed. I am so grateful to everyone in the Plainfield Christian Science Church for their wonderful service. With love. And then from our church website bulletin board, Virginia. My husband and I had the privilege of attending the Christmas Eve service in this church. It was a time filled with love for God and man, with joy overflowing. This is truly a holy place with one God and one aim, to share the light of Christ with the world. Thank you to all the dedicated members who make this outreach possible. And thank you, too, for Sunday's featured musical offering, Mary Did You Know, by Sammy and Jared. So many blessings from this church, and many thanks. I'd just like to mention, some of you know our dear Sammy has moved to Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and she arrived there today safely, and we send her our love, and before long we're thinking we're going to have another church in Georgia, because we're getting so many members from Georgia. So anyway, Thank you very much tonight for those readings about progress, spiritual progress. Someone was telling me this week how they no longer worry about their progress, that they know it's in God's hands. And that's certainly the way to approach this, because if you understand, we are all unfoldment, just like a flower unfolds. It's not accretion, and you can't force it or make it happen. God makes it happen, and we unfold naturally in the sunlight of His truth and love. Therefore, to worry about our progress certainly doesn't help, and it has nothing to do, truly, with unfoldment. One of the statements read tonight is one I love from Retrospection and Introspection, where Mrs. Eddy says, "Though the divine rebuke is effectual to the pulling down of sin's strongholds, it may stir the human heart to resist truth, before this heart becomes obediently receptive of the heavenly discipline. If the Christian Scientist recognize the mingled sternness and gentleness which permeate justice and love, he will not scorn the timely reproof, but will so absorb it that this warning will be within him a spring welling up into unceasing spiritual rise and progress." I was certainly one who never liked correction very much, and I had to learn this lesson, and it is certainly one that benefits progress. We all like to hear how well we are doing, but sometimes we need to be told about perhaps how we could do better. And these reproofs or rebukes or corrections come in many different ways, sometimes from a friend, sometimes from something you read, sometimes your own conscience kind of pricking you to tell you to change in some way. But when you can take this rebuke done with gentleness, permeated with love and gentleness, as is said, it will, and I love what Mrs. Eddy says, there will be a spring welling up into unceasing spiritual rise and progress, and so it will be. And if we can take hold of the ways we can hear God's voice better, as was said tonight in another testimony, and we can learn to be more God-like, it's a wonderful thing, and we do grow in a beautiful way. So thank you for those wonderful readings. It's so great to be here with everyone tonight and to have had such a holy season with you all. It meant so much to be with you through these last few weeks. Happy New Year, and God bless you, everyone.
Thank you.